Hello, hello. All right, folks. We should be live, and I believe that you should start to see things here um, happening more and more. So we're going to give a couple of minutes to allow people in, like in the chat and everywhere else. As people come on in, we will start to dive into things. Before we get started, wherever you are, my favorite question to ask people is, where are you, and also what did you have for breakfast? That's my personal favorite question. I'm going to start my chat here, and actually, just for breakfast, I had a protein shake, so pretty boring. But I would love to see if anybody has any. What's the most unique thing you've had for breakfast? Because sometimes people have some can of tuna, wild things for breakfast. So we'll talk through that. Wherever, let me know if you guys can hear me. I believe we have all of the audio settings good to go, but just put a chat if you have that. All right. Oh, Rob with a salad. Love it. All right, guys, we're just going to hop into things. This should be a small group because it was a last minute promotion, and this is almost a little test just to see how live streaming goes as we start to do more of that. So I'm going to start sharing, and we're going to dive into things, and I want you guys to ask questions as much as you can. So, welcome. We are going to be talking about building your data action plan, folks. Okay. What is a data action plan? We're going to start to dive into that as well, because frankly, most people don't have a way to act on their actual data. It's remarkable how many companies that we see, that we come into, that there is no plan. There is absolutely no plan. Like, we need data for data's sake, and it becomes a behemoth to manage over time. So what does that actually look like? And I would love to kind of dive in as people are saying, oh, we have Hamburg, Chile, we've got some UK. So far, we have not a single person from my home country, the United States, which, good or bad, here we are. Okay. And so before we get into data action plan, I just want to show what is Vision Labs. We are a measurement department and data team. We work with clients ranging from $5 million to $250 million per year. That ranges from e-com, B2B, e-commerce, B2C, SaaS, direct response, content, shoppable content, you name it, we've probably done it and are currently doing it with our client base. So if you are a brand or a company, do not hesitate to ask a question. If you're an agency or consultant, I will try and do my best to give you a structure. Mostly we operate in the Google stack, so that's BigQuery, Looker, Looker Studio, GA4, Tag Manager, etc. All those different types of pieces. Who we are, just so you know, Stockton was supposed to be here today presenting, but he got wrapped into something else. So we have myself, the founder of Vision Labs, and then Stockton, who is the director of client strategy, who you might see pop in momentarily. So before we get started, ask yourself, how do I take an action, and what action do I take? So if you are watching and you want to jot this down in the comments or just on a notepad, is ask yourself, how do you know what action to take? And that takes a lot of self-reflection of saying, how do you know what you're trying to accomplish? Because oftentimes what happens is you say, we have some sort of data, we have a person, and then we just do this. And this thing that you're doing could be different. It could be inactionable. And so it comes down to like this voodoo stuff, right? People are saying, oh, I'm going to read these data cards. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically put everything together. And I'm going to say, hey, go do this thing. And it might be different every time. It's not the same methodology. It's not the same way of doing things. It's different every time, and it causes problems. So we want to try and avoid this as best we can. Okay. And so there's data, structure, and action. That is what we're trying to accomplish. We have data, we have it in a structured way, we can present it in a structured way that leads people to take an action. If we can do that reliably and consistently, the value starts going up and up and up. Okay. The big problem is to turn that number into an action. If I show you this report, you're like, cool, I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. Let's stop talking about this. And so what we've done is we've created a data action plan. And this is what that looks like. I try to zoom it in as much as we can. And this is how we're starting to think about things when it comes to building out roadmaps for better data, more useful data, and more actionable data. And so I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to give you a high level overview of how to look at this just so you have an idea. Is at the very bottom, we have our our acquisition strategy. So how are we acquiring customers? How are we acquiring revenue? We move up, we then have our conversion tactics. So that's going to be website conversions, behavioral tracking, and then all of that type of good stuff. And then we have retention and profitability at the top. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to start at the bottom left. We're going to move our way right, go up a level, move our way left, up a level, move away right. And what at the end of this, for every initiative that you do, you should be able to have a plan at the end of this. And so that is the goal, is that you have a plan to execute against, so you know if your plan is working versus not working. So that is our overarching theme here. Oh, my clicker has stopped working here. That's it, folks. No, 1 second. Let me find my clicker back. Okay. So our bottom rung here, acquisition strategy. What you want to do, looking at this first orange block, is you want to set a goal for what you're trying to accomplish. So how you could do that is, let's just take an initiative that anybody could use. Let's just take it a new year initiative that you're running. Let's just say it's you're trying to get sales for supplements. That's a very common new year thing. Or you're a gym trying to get new people. Right now, one of our clients is running a back to school initiative because a lot of schools start the first week of August. So right now is the back to school time. Okay. So what is the goal for that time? Are we trying to acquire new customers? Are we trying to break even on those new customers and build their lifetime value up over time? Are we trying to make a certain marginal profit on these customers? Are we trying to make a larger value for those customers? So overarching, write down, what is the goal of this initiative? Then you can break that down into individual platforms. So for example, Facebook, we would like a 2x ROAS. We would like to have a new customer or a customer acquisition cost around a $50 CPA. Our email should have this outcome. So every single platform, you're now breaking that down and you're taking your goal into that. And then you have a target initiative or target efficiency for that goal. So for example, let's just take the back to school example, because I just had a strategy planning conversation with this client. Is we're going to spend $50,000. What our target is we're going to have a marketing efficiency ratio. So that's an acquisition marketing efficiency ratio. So new customer revenue of 1, meaning we're going to spend $50,000. And our goal is that we have $50,000 of new customer revenue. That is their target. And so what we've been able to do is we say, okay, our goal for this plan is to break even. The reason why we're going to break even is because we're selling a subscription on the back end, that our target is to raise the lifetime value within 365 days by 50%. So 50% in 365 days. They now have a plan to go and execute against. How does that work? Just write it down. I kid you not. This is what we started with, is that you say, write down the initiative name, and then what is the goal of this initiative? That's it, folks. I guarantee you this will blow some people's minds. If you say, we are doing a 4th of July sale, we are doing a new customer onboarding flow, this is the initiative, this is what the goal of that initiative is. It will blow your mind at how simple that is. And then it makes everyone's impact so much greater. Everyone always comes back with, I don't know, what should my target be? Just start. Just write it down. Brands doing hundreds of millions and 1 million have done this, and it makes it so much easier. You're going to be wrong, but you'll get better every single time. The overall plan here is that you have a plan, that's the blue circle, and you have an outcome, that's B, the right circle. And where those overlap, you have the ability to act. So your plan is that we're going to do $50,000 in ad spend. We're going to acquire $50,000 a new customer. After the initiative is done, So on August like 10th, when we look at this, what we could do is we say, did we acquire that? Did we break it down by the channels? So how did Facebook do? How much did we spend? How much did email do as far as new customer growth? And now we can write down our outcome, and we'll write it down in the same type of form where we say, hey, our outcome was we actually did $10,000 in new customer revenue. So we had a 0.2 AMER, and it was not nearly as good as we thought. So now we have two options. We can look forward and say, hey, next initiative, we need to lower our expectations. Or we needed to basically come back to the drawing board and say, do we need to send more emails, run more ads, change what we're doing? Or is the expectation just that unrealistic? You now have something to execute against. So in that acquisition strategy column on the bottom, or the row at the bottom, we now have the goal of marketing and advertising. We've set a goal. We're going to spend $50,000. We're going to acquire $50,000 of new customer revenue. We're going to do that with 60% of that on Facebook and 40% of that on our email list of non-existing customers. That's the plan. Our target efficiency ratio is going to be 1 AMER, and we can even have a MER of a different number. So now we have a target efficiency. Let's now go one level up. Okay, that planning section, everyone thinks is the easiest. I promise you, it's the hardest. Now we have the stuff that everybody thinks is the easiest, or everyone thinks is very difficult, but it will become easier over time. We need to have website conversion tracking. So we need to have the best data being sent to every platform, as well as our own data warehouses, at the best possible interval. Meaning, do we need it hourly, daily, weekly, etc. The data needs to get to each platform. That is kind of table stakes. After iOS 14, everybody blew up on convergence API, blah, 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 blah. So you've probably heard those words. Behavioral tracking is for when things do not go right. So this is talking about like your Microsoft Clarities, your hot jars, your heat maps, all of those types of things. We then have your buy questions, your traffic, landing page sources, etc. So this is where you take your behavioral tracking, you take your conversion tracking, and you ask buy questions. These are something that we talk a lot about inside of Vision Labs, inside of the lab, is what buy questions are the most useful. You can take your revenue number, or you can take your traffic number, and you can break it down by your traffic source, or you can break it down by your device category. And that's where you start to have reports be realized. You have your plan, you have your execution, you have your reports that need to match to the plan, folks. That is what we are doing. And the more you can do that consistently, the better it will be. How do you do this? This is where people start getting into tools. There are all-in-one tools that do this for you. The intentionality is what matters the most, right? Why are you using this all-in-one tool like Triple Whale or whatever else? There's a lot of them out there that do everything at once. Why are you doing this? And what do you need? So we prefer the Google stack. We use like GA4. We use server-side tracking. We use Microsoft Clarity. That's a Microsoft tool, not a Google tool. And the overarching theme is that we have really solid reporting. Okay, folks, that is the goal. And so now your reporting matches your plan, right? So now we have our conversions, we have our behavior tracking, we have our landing pages, we have our sources, we have our breakdowns, we have everything that we need that should marry up with our plan. The people that we talk to a lot, they like to start here. They like to start with the websites, they like to start with the behavioral tracking, start with the landing page and the traffic, et cetera, et cetera. It's easy, it's tangible, but if you don't have a plan, it becomes useless very quickly, and it becomes a lot less useful as a whole. Your plan must be married to your metric. I'm going to keep saying this again and again. I'm sorry if I sound repetitive already, and we're only 15 minutes in, but I promise you that if you marry your plan to your metrics, you will become a much happier camper. The last rung on this ladder is retention. And we've kind of grouped a bunch of things into this retention. And the idea is that you can take that cohort and track it over time. Our back to school sale, we broke even, AMER of 1. We spent $50,000, we gained $50,000. Well, the goal is that we can then increase that customer lifetime value over time, right? Over time, we're able to say, hey, we broke even. We have $50,000 in this cohort of the end of July. And now when we look at that over time, the goal is that we're increasing that cohort by 50% over 1 year. we set on our plan. So we have to have a way of tracking that cohort by volume of dollars and volume of customers. If you don't have a way of doing that, it becomes very hard to know if your plan is actually working. We've seen many customers, actually one e-commerce client that we recently did this with. Their plan was they're going to lose money on the first order with this super sweet entry level offer for a product that everyone loves. So their AMER is going to go through the roof, right? Or no, very, very through the floor, because their acquisition marketing metric is going to say we're acquiring customers at $50 a cost per acquisition, but they're only worth $15 to us because that's the trial value. So we're losing $35 on the initial sale. But their customer acquisition cost goes very, very low as well. So now they're acquiring a lot of customers, but are they actually becoming profitable? Well, now we have to know what are the costs, the cost of goods, the cost of advertising, the cost of CapEx, everything else. And then what is the outcome of that over time, right? Over the period that the expected payback period, are we realizing that? I believe that they were shooting for 30% in the first 30 days and 100% in the first 90 days. So every $15 was going to be worth 30% more, and then it was going to be worth $30 more in the first 90 days. And I believe that was realized. And then the problem is that their customer acquisition cost was about equal with their 90-day value. So they're breaking even over 90 days, not the best model. You kind of have to realize revenue much quicker. But they knew that because of the reporting that we were able to work with them on. We had a plan, we had an execution, we had the cohort, the costs, and the profit all together at once. So if you can do that, then you can build something like this, right? This is kind of an example where you now have a plan and you now can say, okay, we're looking at our one-time orders. We're looking at the revenue from the first day, 7-day, 14-day, etc. And now you're able to take your plan and marry that with your reports because you have all the data in the pipeline, okay? So getting costs in your system can be one of the most complicated things, but you have the biggest difference is that your different cost of goods business are very wildly. So for example, some low cost of goods businesses where you have info products, softwares, your cost of goods are very low. E-commerce, for example, we worked with a meat packing company and we worked with a, what was it? Darn it, the name of the company is escaping me. A live coral company. The problem was that their cost is so high, right? Like it's $60 to ship something. It's $100 to ship something. And so it's a very different business model where someone's not buying it on subscription usually. They're usually being very intentional about what they're actually looking for. And so you just need to be aware of that. And as you start planning, you then can have your next initiative to then say, okay, this cost of goods is going to factor into our plan and we are going to keep going. At the end of the day, you can say this initiative of our, what's the name of it? Our initiative for our back to school plan that we had, that back to school plan, we can then say was or was not working, right? It did not have the profit. It did not have the costs. It did not have the lifetime value that we expected to be realized. And now we could go back for our next initiative and have that in place. So for this, what we've done is basically said every single initiative, we need to have one of these done. We can say, okay, we need to have a goal of the marketing. We need to have our individual platform outcomes, our target efficiencies, making sure we have all the tracking and the behavioral tracking and our website to have the breakdowns that we find the most useful, and then take that and break that down over time and say, now that we have these cohort of customers, is that increasing over time or not? The last piece of this is that you have costs and profit, okay? The main takeaway, folks, is write down your plan. I know that sounds wild to say out loud, is that your plan needs to be realized. But this right here, so plan is in the orange, and then your outcome is in the green. Our plan was that we're going to do 8,000 new customers, and we actually only did 2,500 new customers. Well, it didn't work. And this plan, where your plan was to do 2,000 new customers, and then the outcome was that we did 8,000 customers, or whatever that says, these are equally useful, right? These are both something that you executed your plan and your outcome and you realize them together. And so over the next few weeks and months, we're going to start doing more and more content about this idea, because if you plug a great system into collecting your data, building out your data management and everything else, a lot of your effort focuses on the plan. You have to have a solid plan that enables you to act again and again and execute against your plan. Okay. A couple of final notes here. If you guys have any questions, I know we tested out a new streaming thing, so I think we're on YouTube right now and within like the streaming service. So if you ask a question, it might be a little bit delayed. So start writing your questions right now if you have them. Because there's a couple final things I just wanted to run through, is that we are going to be doing this and covering this more in our lab coaching program as we start to realize the actual plan better. We have like an MVP that we're working on internally, and we're trying to get this into a system that we can say, hey, how do we do this in a way that makes the most sense? So just FYI, I know there are a couple of lab members here. You're like, where is this stuff inside? It is coming soon. We're trying to do this. It's probably going to take us a month or two to really iron out a lot of the kinks. But I'll let you know that that's happening soon. Questions or ideas from your side of things, guys? I know this is super quick. I'm not trying to waste your time and dive into something that is unneeded, but I'd love to know your thoughts about this idea of putting your plans into a documented place, and then marrying that with an outcome, and so that you can report on that in a very consistent way. So questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, feelings, ideas. Guys, this is not meant to be a long training. I just wanted to kind of show you what we've been working on and how this can possibly bring a new idea to your brand. And if anyone does have an amazing question, I'll be happy to talk through it. And in other news, Stockton is off of his call, so I'm going to bring him to the forefront here. And Stockton, are there any final words that you have for people that are checking in as we have unveiled our data action plan to the public?
Welcome. Thanks for having me. Final news. I think the final mantra of everything we want to do, not everything we want to do, but what we want to help companies do, is suck less. And that's going to be the big headline across the website. When is that going to be the hero? Suck less on the website. And this is the plan that will help you do that. You don't need novel marketing ideas. You don't have to do the next, viral marketing campaign. Just take where you're at, come up with a strategic plan to execute against very specific things that will just help you suck less and therefore do better.
And honestly, that's one thing I think that people underestimate, right? Is where you are doing 1,000 things, and if you just stopped doing 30%, like you'd be 30% better. And that's an underestimated hack of life of how do you increase profit margins is suck less.
Yeah, like, the example of editing your website, right? Like if you're a business trying to, get sales, then why are you spending time tweaking the CSS of like a button on your website, right? If you're in D2C, you're trying to get sales, like there's certain things that just don't matter. And so the DAP, the data action plan, lays out the expectation of what you want to do. And then you go and execute against that and cut out all the noise, all the extra stuff, all the fluff that's not going to get you to that plan. So there you go. Suck less.
So guys, I think that's that. We wanted to hop into this just out of the gate. Like this is kind of fresh off the press and give you we're marrying this really complex data structure of us being able to extract data, store it, visualize it very quickly, and then also have the idea of you now have a plan and you now have reporting that is married to that plan. And so your reports should make a lot more sense to you. And so the last call to action here for everyone that is still launching is that if you're like, hey, I would love to have this done for us and managed for us, could just fill out one of the contact forms on the website, visionlabs.com/contact. And if you are a contractor, consultant, agency, etc., join the lab. We'll be talking more about this every single week as we start to kind of roll out this framework to be a more useful outcome in life. So that's it, folks. That's the end of the stream. So everybody who's still here, I hope this was the fastest, quickest webinar you've ever joined and attended. And if you have any questions at all, you can email hello@visionlabs.com your questions, comments, or concerns, or just fill out a contact form. Otherwise, folks, we will see you the next time. See ya.